Welcome to Bonds After Baby. I'm LMFT Evie Empress, and I'm here to help you and your family relationships experience more relief and connection during the stage of pregnancy, postpartum, and early parenthood. Remember to subscribe for my podcast here and on YouTube, and sign up to my email list on my website, bondsafterbaby.com, for free resources for your family. In today's episode, I'm going to help you and your loved ones identify relationship strengths and growth areas in early parenthood. I'll end the episode with 2 helpful prompts to start your own introspection and discussions with your partner or family relatives to gain a deeper awareness of your family functioning, coping in this stage of early parenthood or preparing for parenthood. This will help with becoming more intentional about your family's habits and ways of bonding. I've been discussing this in the context of pregnancy and early parenthood. There are several stressors, along with the fact that roles and identities are shifting in families. This can stir up so much feeling in us that's hard to sit with. So reactivity, catastrophizing, like thinking about things are going to happen, withdrawing or shutting down, avoiding, and many other ways of dealing can really rev up during this time. I work with so many couples that have been together for either a few years or up to 40 years. And as we get into couples work, I've found that many of them are very surprised at what was hurting their relationship dynamic and what could have helped. When individuals haven't had their own models of healthy relationships, or just models of how to cope through the struggle or stay connected, it's hard to notice when something isn't working in your own family dynamic. And we all know what's familiar just becomes routine. I'd like you listeners to have the opportunity to hear what family science researchers and clinicians notice about families who stay connected and resilient through good times and hard times to reflect on. I'm going to go down a list of different sources of resilience and strength in families. Okay, so one is authenticity. Do you feel like you can be authentically yourself with your partner, your parents, your siblings, your in-laws? Or do you notice predominantly feeling like you need to people please, or avoid difficult conversations that maybe you'd like to have, or you have needs that need to get met, but there's a lot of hesitation around addressing that with others? Do you notice similarly whether your loved ones can be authentic with you? Do people come to you, your family members, do they come to you with hard conversations with a belief that you can work things out? Or do you notice that that gets avoided with you as well? Okay. Communication. What is your experience of being heard? In other words, if you express yourself, do you feel that most of the time, not all the time, we're not perfect, I'm certainly not, right? Do you feel that most of the time loved ones are trying to really understand your point of view or experience? What's your experience of listening to someone? Is it generally hard to listen to complaints? Is it more comfortable for you to shut down than be present? Again, I'm talking about most of the time. There's always going to be times where, it's hard to be present. But looking at kind of a general pattern in the family dynamic. Bonds and emotional intimacy. How comfortable is each member of the family with expressing warmth and affection? This certainly looks different in different cultures for sure. So in your family context, is there a longing for more emotional intimacy? This is basically boiling down to, are you being shown that you're loved? Does it feel good? And do you do that for others in your family? If you notice that that's hard between adults, do you also notice that that's hard to give to your kids or for your kids to show to you? Okay. Sharing in grief. This is also related to emotional intimacy, of course, right? Is it easy or hard to go to your loved ones with difficult feelings like grief or anger? Do you err on protecting the other person by not sharing things with them and not upsetting them? Do you share with anyone in your family about how difficult parenting feels lately? Or is it easy for you to ask for a shoulder and an ear from someone? I often see a lot of moms go to their friends instead of family members. And look, friendships in motherhood and just in life are so important. I will never be dismissive or discount the amazing impact and just wealth of love that we can get from our friendships. But what I'm talking about more specifically is when that kind of conflict gets detoured from a spouse or a parent or something and goes to a friend. And then that's like the outlet for regular validation, which means that then things don't get worked out with your partner or with other family members. So just something to watch out for. If that's always happening, again, I'm not saying don't talk to your friends, but like if that's always happening where you're getting validation only from friends and never from your actual family members, that can be something of a way of avoidance. Okay. And I see both parents avoid sharing a lot of hard feelings in this stage of life with one another, even sharing in joy or pride. So you may be surprised by this, but I truly see this almost as much like see avoiding sharing in joy or pride almost as much as discomfort in sharing grief or anger. There's something very intimate and vulnerable at times to express joyfulness and pride. And parents can sometimes have a hard time with themselves, even to say, God, I'm so proud of myself, or, oh, I just had this joyful experience with my child, even with themselves, let alone to say it to their co-parent or partner or the grandparent. Like, I'm really proud of how I handled this tantrum at Trader Joe's today, or how I managed to get through the whole flight with a newborn, or just get a shower in for myself when things were so crazy. Or even, oh, we were at library story time with our sweet boy, and you should have seen how he lit up with all the stories and the songs. And I just felt such gratitude and joy inside. Sometimes there's a timidness to feel that in ourselves, to express it with others, especially when that wasn't common in our family of origin. In other words, the family that we grew up in. Boundaries. Are you and your family members comfortable enough to identify and share if behavior has crossed a line or when there are just limits on what you're willing to do? And can you handle that when others share boundaries with you? Is your couple relationship comfortable teaming up to establish boundaries with extended family or with each other? This is one of the biggest issues to navigate in early parenthood, right? The boundaries and relationships with extended family once children come. And of course, this depends a lot on the extended family dynamics. But can you and your spouse be on the same side and team making decisions like this? I'm not talking about keeping extended family at a distance. Often when people hear the word boundary, they think distance. In fact, in my culture, it's much more natural that everyone stays quite connected and involved. Boundaries really do not mean disconnection. It means limits on specific behaviors or, whether we don't want to do certain things or we don't want others to do certain things. And respecting boundaries actually can bring so much more trust, which brings more closeness in the end. Flexibility. So those that know me will also laugh. This is one that took me a while to get my head around as a parent. So this is basically, can your relationship roll with the punches? Can we let go of like ideals, idealizations, rigid expectations, and be flexible? In this phase of life, preparing for pregnancy, postpartum months, and early parenthood throws a lot of curveballs. I'm sure a lot of you are nodding right now, like I am. I have a 16-month-old downstairs. It's all very vivid, so I get it. So when circumstances change, the needs of your child change as well. Your needs, your partner's needs change. And how do you adapt? Do you notice that family members get rigid or you get rigid in expectations of how things should go, right? Or is there some more adaptability and space to be like, okay, where can you identify priorities, but also choose what can adapt? For example, like I'll just take a basic one like food. If both parents are just having grueling weeks at work and it keeps bringing up a lot of stress to navigate meal times, it can be a priority that most of the time your children eat like a well-balanced meal with lots of vegetables. But like for these 2 weeks, can we go easy on ourselves and like give a little more pasta? Or, something that's just like easier or like a ready-made, rotisserie chicken or something. That's a small example, but this goes on to bigger things as well, different levels of things. And this also incorporates can we face reality about our situation and understand that some of these are not realistic expectations in these realities, and how do we adapt? And also, adapting is related to grace. Can we give ourselves grace? Can we give each other grace? And how can we shift our perspectives or the way we're coping for the health and well-being of our family, right? It's also an emotional priority. This will also, of course, teach your children, like, we can adapt to hard things. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, right? That sort of thing is wonderful to model. And then we have the intergenerational factor. So what do you notice you or your family members are doing better than what you grew up with and your partner? This question isn't meant to disparage older members of your family, but rather to just admit that we may want to create new dynamics for ourselves and our kids, and that we have a choice to be more intentional with our own families as adults. Sometimes those changes come more easily, and sometimes we really have to work for them. Either way, can you feel pride about the changes you've made, or notice the changes your partner, sibling, parent, the grandparent has made and how they approach relationships, as opposed to how they were raised? And on the other side of that coin, what wonderful things did you and your family members grow up with that continues in your current generation? This is really important to notice and celebrate, and to share those things too. Again, can you imagine what it would feel like for your mom to say to you, or your partner or something, I know you grew up with lots of yelling, and I see how much you try to calm yourself before talking to the baby. Great job. Or how your partner would feel if you went up to him or her and said, you had to grow up with a dad that didn't make a lot of time for you as a kid, and I'm so sorry for that. It's amazing to see how much time you devote to our baby already. He's so lucky to have you, right? It just feels good inside even saying those words. So I want to share some tips on how you can start conversations, deeper conversations about your family strength and growth areas. So number one, take an observing, exploratory stance with a family member. Imagine you're just like an observing researcher or scientist, right? This is not about judgment or calling people out, really just to understand and be curious. Notice together what strengths you can identify and what growth areas you may have in your relationship or whole family dynamic, based on the points that I made today. So again, the goal is not to be judgmental or criticize, but just observe for now and be curious with each other. And good prompt questions can include, what is it like for you when such and such happens? Do you feel comfortable coming to me if I've upset you? What is it like for you when I ask you to put a boundary with your parents, right? And vice versa. 2, can you help each other or agree to help each other with things that are hard after you identify something? So for example, if you know your partner is really uncomfortable being honest about things that upset them, can you reassure and encourage them at times? Remind them, let them know you're there to listen, that it's okay to be honest with you, and that you want to hear what they have to say. Or if you know your spouse who has just given birth has a hard time asking for help, can you reassure her and let her know that you're happy to be involved and offer really specific things for her to choose from, or just go and tackle something without them asking? Can you identify one way in which you can help your family member and they can help you in the ways that are a little bit hard? I hope this was helpful. I'll definitely be getting into all of these kind of family functioning themes more in depth in future episodes. But this is just an intro into what to start thinking about. If you want the resources at your fingertips, I'll be offering freebie goodies in the near future. Sign up for my email list at bondsafterbaby.com to get the goods, and subscribe to my podcast and to my YouTube channel, Bonds After Baby, so you get notified when there's a new episode. I'm here for you and your family. See you next week. Goodbye.